Hi there guys and girls, and welcome to my Mortal Kombat Conquest episode 20 Balance of Power review. I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting a long time for this one. I'm sorry I didn't get them done sort of, faster. It's been a bit of a rocky road with the Conquest stuff, and they're all flagged and stuff, and I wasn't sure if I should do more, but stuff that I'm just going to do them all, get them finished off, and I'll deal with all the content ID matches later. But this episode, it's kind of it's interesting, this one. It's like, I think this is the episode where they stopped this is the last episode where they stopped putting a lot of money into the episodes, if that makes sense. Like, as far as Conquest goes, they never had a lot of money, right? Like, it was always, they'd reuse footage, or they'd reuse sets or redress sets, change the lighting, they'd make the Outworld caves look like Scorpion's Lair or something, just change the lighting and smoke effects, change purple to orange, stuff like that. But in this episode, there's a lot of things I like about it. It starts off with an Adenian torture scene, and it's got Shao Kahn and Shadow Priest and Reiko, and they're torturing a guy and for information, and I think he's the one who's been breeding with Kriya and making all these hives. Remember, Outworld's kind of at war. Kriya's making all these hives of warriors, and Outworld's under attack. Shao Kahn's getting desperate to find out who this mate she has is, and so he's torturing everyone and killing them, and he sees that as a win, because that's one less person that it could be, sort of thing. It's kind of ruthless sort of mentality. It's kind of interesting. Rico steps in and he says, I vouch for this man, I've fought side by side by him, it's not him, and then Shah Khan says, that's who it's going to be, trusted ally right in my midst, Shah Khan doesn't trust anyone, he's paranoid, you know what I mean, and Reiko says, can you release him? Shah Khan releases him by killing him with the sword. This episode kind of has the theme of swords. It actually started right off with Zero playing with his sword, and then we've got this Shao Kahn sword, which plays a big part in this episode. So then Raiden comes and sees Taja, Zero, and Kung Lao, and tells them the information that that Shao Kahn's getting desperate, he's torturing and killing everyone. And they say it's funny, we know it's Reptile, but he doesn't. And they make a good point. We should tell him, let's rat him out. One less guy to worry about. Reptile is a formidable, villain for them, because they've seen what he can do. They can see that he can disappear and reappear. That's kind of scary. They could be waiting anywhere for you. One shot of acid to the face, and that could be the end of you. So Raiden's advice pretty much is to stay out of it. Let them sort of kill each other, which is, a good strategy, and then you attack what's left. Then we get our next scene. It's our first fight of this episode, and it's the Katanas guard versus the Shadow Priest. So we saw the Shadow Priest talking in the first scene, but this is cool. This guy actually does fight, and he again is torturing. There's no Shao Kahn this time. It's just the Shadow Priest and this Katana's guard. He says you're strong, like all of Katana's guards, because I'm guessing he's Adenian. Well, he is, because he calls him that. So they have this great fight scene. So it's quite good. It looks awesome. There's some great moves in it. And I actually like the way the fight scene ends. He throws that kind of sword thing into the chair, and he kind of impales him on the sword, and then he kind of breaks his neck with one kick to kill him.
Powerful. Like all of Katana's guards.
Why am I here?
Good. Speaking already. Now, if you answer questions as well as you ask them, this will be easier than the last. Shao Kahn seeks the identity of a traitor.
How does that concern me?
It should concern you, Denian. You will talk to me.
I have nothing to hide.
Oh, but you do. There are secrets at the center of all things. Even you. I will take you apart one small piece at a time, and I will know what is in your heart. The pain will last, you know. Even after you die.
Can you face death too?
So be it, Adenian. Your way it is. Die your noble death.
And this just goes to show that this Shadow Priest is a real character in this episode, and that's what I like. And I know we're not there yet, but in the last episode, if you think about the Shadow Priest in the last episode, it's so silly, man. It's literally like, you know, a guy with a cloak over his face going, like jumping around, and those, you know, they rushed that last episode, and that's why for me it feels like this episode had a bit more better production value. Like this Shadow Priest was a character, and not just him. There's another Shadow Priest in it later who just, his job is to die, and even that is characteristic. You know, so he kills Katanas, the Denian guard. Then we see Vorpax and Kriya having an argument. Vorpax is upset because she says all her sisters are dying. You know, remember they're all related to Kriya. You know, and Kriya's like, you'll do as I say, sort of thing. You know, pretty much. And she has to show her allegiance, or she's going to be banished. So Vorpax shows her allegiance. You know, to stay with Kriya. And then Vorpax shows up at the trading post. Speaks to Kung Lao, Taja, and Zero, and says that she wants them to kill Kriya. You know, and she makes a good argument. She says, you know, what they say, why should we do your dirty work? And she pretty much says, you know, you'll go back to Mortal Kombat and we'll go away and you won't see us again, sort of thing, right? And
he'd be dead already if that was what
there's an interesting thing here is that Taja says, what's to stop you from them becoming queen? And she says, no, that can't happen. Kriya's powers die with Kriya, sort of thing. And this is something that obviously will come up later in the episode. But then Khan's new scheme is with the Shadow Priest. You know, the Shadow Priest says they fight loyally, they die. They falsely confess, they die. It is a waste, you know. And that's why I like this character. He's quite good. He looks great. He's got the markings on the face, you know. And this is probably the best episode, best thing in the Mortal Kombat lore that has anything to do with Shadow Priests, you know. And
Hear it from his lips.
then this is his new scheme. He says, spare the loyal and kill only those who plot against you, sort of thing. And then he's like, no more riddles, priest. You know, Khan starts getting angry, you know. and he says, I need to sacrifice one more and I need your sword. You know? So Khan gives him the sword, and then this other Shadow Priest, he walks in, and this is what I was talking about, him being a character, he just walks in and just lies down to die. You know? He didn't argue about it. That's his job. He doesn't care. And that's what makes these Shadow Priests kind of creepy. You know, they kind of live on, they kind of live, they feel like they live in the afterlife, or they kind of transcend, I don't know, their powers transcend life and death, which you kind of see. He kills him with the sword, and then the sword absorbs that Shadow Priest into the sword. And then he says we must prepare the link to Khan. You know, it's kind of cool, some cool, mysterious dialogue. And then Kiri appears, who's a reptile. She appears on the wall. Get used to this footage. You see it 3 times in the episode. She appears and comes out of the wall, and she's been listening in, so she knows something's going on. So then Vorpax pitches it to Kriya that we should attack, you know, Taja, Kung Lao, and Siro, you know, but she says Kung Lao will be by himself tonight, we'll get rid of him. You know, they're all those ones that interfere with our dominance in Earth Realm, and this is the way we can get rid of them. And she convinces Kriya to go along with it. And yeah, so then we go back to Khan, and he's getting everyone to swear it on the sword, and they have to kiss the sword. And Reptile's the first that says, "This is beneath a true warrior." And then Khan says the line, "I'll have your oath, Reptile, or I'll have your head." You know, so he has to kiss the sword. You know, and anyone who kisses the sword, we'll find out later, can be heard by the Shadow Priest. We then get our second fight of the episode, which is Kriya versus Kung Lao. So Vorpax goes in there. Kriya tells her she has to go in and take the lead and weaken Kung Lao. So she goes in there and they pretend to have a fight. And then Kriya comes running in, and obviously it's Kung Lao, Siro, and Taja, and they're waiting for her. And then the doors just close by themselves, which is kind of interesting. I wonder who did that. Maybe Raiden. I don't know. And then they have a fight scene with Kriya. So they pretty much all gang up on Kriya. Kriya holds her own pretty well, but Siro gets the beautiful finishing kick where he just kicks her straight in the face. Bang! Yeah, I really like the kick. And then that just kind of puts her down. And then Vorpax shows up and kills Kriya. And then obviously all these little, you know, sparkly things come out of Kriya and go into Vorpax. And yeah, so now we go back to Khan. So this episode pretty much had two kind of storylines going on. You had the Kriya storyline with the Earthrealm warriors, and you had the Shah Khan sort of looking for his trade out. So you kind of had 2 parallel storylines. This is kind of clever when episodes do this. You kind of got 2 interesting things going on. Even if you don't like one, you got the other, you know. And a lot of early Simpsons episodes did that. They had kind of 2 plot lines going on. And so, yeah, so the Shadow Priest is spying on anyone who's kissed the sword. We see a scene where he's doing this, you know, he's kind of like that. And he's saying what Rico is saying, because Rico swore on the sword, and Rico's talking to some guy. He's like, "Oh, I've been summoned to the throne room. Is it true about the torture?" And he says, "Yes, you know, you must go, you must swear your allegiance on the sword." And then the Shadow Priest is saying, "Oh, listen to Khan." And this is their plan, you know. Anyone who kissed the sword, the Shadow Priest is then able to echo what they're saying to someone else out loud. You know, so Khan is hearing their conversation. You know, some really cool, like, Shadow Priesty sort of spiritual scheme. I really like it, you know. So now we, after Vorpax had absorbed Kriya's powers, Taja kind of ran off and followed her, and we see Taja now spying on Vorpax, and they're actually having a ceremony where she asks for the powers in full and accepts them, and she gets the powers, you know. Yeah, so she gets all those powers, and yeah, Taja's like, oh my god, you know. Now we see Kiri show up at Reptile's, and Reptile's place, you know, and she tells him that Shah Khan can hear you. She because she's been spying the whole time in the throne room, you know, and she knows what's going on. So she tells Reptile what to say, you know, and then Khan gets angry because he deep down I think he thought it was Reptile for sure, especially since he said, you know, earlier, this is beneath a true warrior. That's kind of, you know, put him out in the spotlight. Okay, there's something wrong with this guy, you know. And he even says it. How easy would it be for Reptile people to come and go in this room? You know, so then Vorpax tracks down Shang Tsung. She wants him to be her mate, so she seduces Shang Tsung. She says, you know, she'll give him whatever he wants. And, you know, he says he wants Kung Lao, and she even says that you're still obsessed with him. Fine, done. We'll kill Kung Lao. We'll make armies. You know, and that's how she gets Shang Tsung on board. Then we see a scene of Kiri again. That footage of her coming off the wall, and her picking up the sword. So she pretty much steals the sword. Here, she takes the sword, so Khan can no longer hear or get people to swear on the sword. Without it, they can't. Their scheme falls apart. We then get our next fight scene, the final fight scene of the episode, which is Reptile versus Shang Tsung. So after Vorpax has made a deal with Shang Tsung, Reptile shows up and he says, you know, we had a deal, you know, and she says, I had no deal with you. Your deals died with Kriya, which is true, you know. But Reptile gets upset. He says, you pick a prisoner of Shao Kahn over the rule of Satara, and then they have a fight. And pretty much Vorpax just stands there and watches Shang Tsung and Reptile fight each other. Yeah, so the episode ends with Khan in his throne room, and it's kind of, I always thought it's kind of weird. Like, you see Khan's throne room and there's skulls and bones everywhere. It looks like he's like killed a bunch of people or something. I don't know. They never explain it. And he's going crazy. He's going, what happened? Where is it? You know, he's having a hissy fit looking for the sword. How could someone come in here and just take it? And everyone kind of runs out of the throne room. They're like, oh my god, he's going crazy. I'd run away too, you know. And the thing I loved about this episode, I love the way it ends. I will have my revenge. You hear me? I will have my revenge. You know, I thought it was just like the bad guy cliche, like well it is, but he actually does get his revenge, like coming up in the next few episodes. I kind of thought that was cool because he says it and he does it. I always talked about Shao Kahn being like the ultimate bad guy character. He does things, he says things and does things, and when things don't work out, he finds a way around. He doesn't stop. He's like an unstoppable force. He's an unstoppable bad guy, and that was kind of coming through a bit in the episode here, which I really liked. And that's the thing about Conquest, you know, like, even though like it's cheesy, the dialogue's bad, and sometimes, you know, it doesn't make sense, like the way the plot runs and things work. You know, some episodes are better than others. Some are real terrible. Some are pretty decent. Some have good characters. Some have terrible characters. You know, it's a real mess. But the thing is, you get this weekly TV show that kind of has a grounded sort of story arc, you know, that you can follow, even though, you know, it's full of holes. And there's good characters along the way, you know, and they did well for setting a show that was set, you know, 500 years before the first tournament, and was based on 3 characters, or 2 we really didn't know, Sura and Taja. It's like, who are these people? You know, and basing it on Kung Lao's ancestor, well, that was a really good idea. And then, you know, having Sub-Zero and Scorpion in it, and finding ways to get them in it, and Rain and Katana, they did well with what they were doing. And I feel like this was probably the last of the episodes that have the best production in it. And like I said, the stuff with the Shadow Priest and the characters in this, it felt like a bit more money was spent on this episode, changing the sets around, and things look pretty good in this episode. The next few aren't terrible or anything, but, you know, like I said, you can just see they were kind of rushing through it to the end. You know, there were only 2 episodes left, and they didn't pick it up for another season. So that's it for my review for Mortal Kombat Conquest episode 20, Balance of Power. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys for a new review soon. Peace.
Do you hear me? I will have my revenge! I will have my revenge! I will